Welcome to Become a Successful Podcaster with Bruce Chamoff, where I help you succeed with your show in everything from monetization to audience growth to marketing, branding, and so much more. Rate us on Apple Podcasts and like this video, thumb it up. You can also subscribe to me on YouTube if you have a podcast and you want to succeed with your show. My guest for this episode is my longtime friend, Steve Guttman, who I met in 1984 when I joined the Communication Help Center at Kean University, located in Union, New Jersey. Steve and I go back and we just reconnected on Facebook last year. Steve is a health and wellness guru. He would be a perfect podcast guest for your show if you have health, wellness, medical, exercise, nutrition. He's into all of that, and he's an expert in all of it as well. If you're looking for a really good guest for your show, Steve is it. Now, we're going to get on with the show. Before I do, I just want to tell you that the one cool thing about Steve is that he's very, very positive. Every day, a couple of times a day on Facebook, he always posts something really positive, whether it would be a famous quote or just plain advice from Steve. Let's start the show.
Yeah.
Hello, I'm Bruce Chamoff, founder of the very first podcast network, the World Podcast Network, launched February 2006, after which hundreds of podcast networks were launched all over the world. I'm the one person who coined the term podcast network back in February of 2006 as well. Our network has helped so many podcasts grow, monetize, market their own shows, and brand themselves.
How have I grown my podcast in a great way? Well, the wonderful Bruce Chamoff has the World Podcast Network. He is the godfather of podcast networks. That's how I've grown Health Power and the Fully Grown Magazine podcast. So be sure to check out Bruce Chamoff, his wonderful World Podcast Network, and check out my podcast as well. Thanks.
Hey, it's Rena, host of the Better Call Daddy podcast. You need to be on the World Podcast Network to extend the reach of your podcast, connect with other podcasters, and for future possibilities.
I'm also a public speaker, entrepreneur, a songwriter, and producer, as well as a web developer of 28 years. I wanted to draw on all of these skills and create a place where podcasters can grow, monetize, and succeed. The World Podcast Network has accomplished all of these goals and will continue to for years to come.
I'm Mike Fox with Veteran Rockers. The World Podcast Network has helped me to meet some amazing people to help me to get some ideas on how I can improve my podcast.
Hey everyone, Melinda here from the Syncreate podcast. I just wanted to give a quick shout out to Bruce and everyone at the World Podcast Network. I recently joined, and it's been wonderful not only to raise interest in my show, but to be part of this wonderful podcast community.
Is my longtime friend who I just reconnected with last year on Facebook, Steve Guttman.
Hey, gang.
And Steve and I went to, at the time it was called Kean College, and now it's called Kean University, about 20 minutes from here, and we met on the Kean College hotline. Say hi to Steve. At the time, I joined what was called the Kean College hotline, but then it officially is called the Communication Help Center.
Yes.
So what is the correct name? Is one a nickname, the other one's official?
It's so far back, I'm trying to remember. We'd have to ask our founding father, Tom O'Donnell.
Tom O'Donnell.
So we had the hotline, we had the walk-in center, we had the community outreach, which was for doing things on the outside. So I remember we put together events going for Special Olympics and many other things.
That's wild.
Yeah.
I remember everybody says, like, you're not on hotline, you're in a communication help center. I'm like, well, they're the same. And I had no idea. But
Right.
I'm like, oh, is that like I was a freshman. I had no idea. But Steve considered me at the time his little brother, and he still calls me brother, which is kind of cool. And it just brings back memories. Mm-hmm. We have had so many memories. But tell my audience a little bit about Steve Guttman, what you've been doing the last couple of years, what you're into, your expertise. I know what it is, but I want my audience to hear it.
Sure. Thanks for asking. Okay, so I have a range of things. My business is called Mind Body Dynamics. So I am a holistic health life coach. Let's say a high performance holistic health life coach, personal trainer, personal training coach. I, along with that, teach yoga, qigong, which Tai Chi comes from.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Mat Pilates. I've been a massage therapist forever. It's more than 39 years now. Meditation, clinical hypnotherapy. I have a strong background in various areas of nutrition. So I work with people, sports and nutrition, weight management, and many other things. I also have a background as a certified physical education teacher.
And all this, and you never became a doctor? You never went to medical school?
Tell me about it. Yeah, there we go. Exactly.
Well, it suffices to say, if you are a health or fitness wellness podcast, Steve would be an amazing guest. He's a good guest on my podcast, and this is not even medical. So,
thank you, sir.
Yes. Now, I will say something. Steve has the most positive vibe on anybody, out of anybody on Facebook that I have ever met. Every day, and several times a day, there's always a new post from Steve with something positive. How do you manage to keep posting on Facebook so often? And how many times on Facebook a day do you actually post?
Good question. I'd say at least twice, and many times more. So first thing I do is mostly nature-based, a first inspirational post, 3 inspirational quotes.
Wow.
Then I do something promoting one area of my business, Mind Body Dynamics. And then I might post other things as well. That's what I do. And as far as the positivity goes, my late mother was very involved with doing things for the community. So she was a huge inspiration on me and the way I look at my life. It's going on 10 years that she's gone from pancreatic cancer. And my mom, as I always would lovingly tell her, she's a tough old broad. Because when she was dealing with the cancer, pancreatic, she lasted 14 months, going all over to take care of things, and 86 years old when she passed. My mom was not about, oh, I'm going to die. It was all about, well, I care about you. I care about you. It was all about family. And she just had this real, just incredibly positive attitude, which I'm not surprised knowing how she was. The way she lived the end of her life, she just lit me up. So I know that a big part of what I do is an inspiration from my mom, wanting to touch others. And what I look at, I realized a few years ago, talking to my friend, and who's more Dr. Jack Barnathan, who's to me the most brilliant forward-moving fitness mind, wellness mind, and does other things, they've been involved with other things on the planet. I realized talking to him, really my mission is to help lift people up, to help inspire, educate, and motivate people.
Oh, you definitely do that. I mean, me of all people.
Thank you. So that's my thing. Just wanting to do it. What I look at is when we have situations, we can let them knock us down, those challenging situations. But of course, do we stay down or we get up? So my mom was always an inspiration about being positive, and the thing I look at so much is the more we lift others up, we lift ourselves up. Taking a positive attitude in life is better for all around health and wellness. So a positive mental attitude, it's better for your immune system. It's better for your family life. It's better for your professional life. It's better for your love life. It's better for health all the way around. We're going to have those things go on, and I've had my moments for sure, but I'm definitely towards the positivity. Now,
that's great.
A lot of people love it, thank you, but then there's people who don't like that, because for some, I'm too much of a Pollyanna, and really, I don't care. If I can connect to them, great. I've learned through years of life, you and I were talking about wisdom before, and experience, life experience. It is what it is. If they're not plugged into drinking the Kool-Aid that I'm serving, then there we go.
Kool-Aid, that's a very good analogy.
Thank you.
A metaphor. That's really neat. I think that I also want to tell my audience that you are, and I haven't met Dylan, but you are an amazing dad
Thank
because
you.
you're always talking about Dylan. Now, I want to ask you something. Would you be interested in being on parental podcast?
Yeah, sure.
All right, I'm going to say hello to Rena Freeman Watts. So Rena and I also connected last year. She has a podcast called Better Call Daddy. Rena is always interviewing people, and she interviewed me, I interviewed her, like we go on each other's podcast. Her father comes on after, and he gives his whole opinion. So I think if you want to talk about your wisdom as a dad, Rena's
Yeah,
podcast
sure.
would be perfect. I'll connect the two of you. That's what we're all about. Now, Steve is joining our guest exchange. So if you come to the World Podcast Network, you're looking for a fitness, wellness, and parental guest for your podcast, Steve is the ideal person. I've known him for a very long time, and I do want to actually, I've known him for a long time. No, I met him a long time ago, but we didn't know each other for the last 35 years. And now I feel like
And thankfully we reconnected.
I feel like he just picked right back up where he dropped off. You know, I graduated college. I don't know what happened to you, and I lost your number. That was it.
Oh,
And
wow.
I'll tell you a very interesting story. So I remember when we were at the hotline, and we had some kind of Friday night thing. A bunch of us went out to the White Castle in Elizabeth. Okay? I don't know what I did. I ate the White Castles. I love White Castles. And I had this huge headache. I don't remember if you noticed. I had this huge
Don't
headache.
remember that.
I couldn't move. It was that debilitating. You said lay down.
That does ring a bell. Something does ring a bell. I'm thinking about it.
And this is the massage therapist I'm talking about now. I don't know how many people I'm talking about when I talk about you. And it's a
Because
good
I went
thing.
to massage school when I was in college one year.
And you had the couple, like there was a fair and you had, you told me lay down. We were back in the hotline office. Take off your shoes. I'm like, what? Take off my shoes? I
Oh,
got a headache.
reflexology.
Yeah, I got a headache. Like, I'm thinking, like, why is he telling me to take off my shoes? Start massaging my feet, my headache goes away. And then you give me that card. The different
Oh, the reflexology
pressure-
card. Yeah.
Reflexology. And I'm like, I had no idea. And I don't think it's like if you have bad gums, you'll have heart disease. You know,
Right.
It's like the same thing. Like, why do I have health problems in my heart? Oh, because you have bad gums? Nobody knows that.
Well, the plaque. Right, exactly. So can I mention a few things?
Yeah.
So
Mention a few
relating to reflexology. in the college days, so I went to massage school one year. I was very popular among some friends, for women friends, because I could hit a few reflexology spots, say on their feet or their hands, for the menstrual cramps. And then, how many friends of mine came to me because they had hangovers? So I could be taking care of people's hangovers, hitting spots for them. The other thing...
Really? I had no idea.
Oh, yeah. The other thing I meant to say, so I run my business, and I'm involved with all that. The other thing I've done, I've worked with people from all ages and capacities, from now 3-week-olds, because last year I met a couple in a supermarket they were expecting. And so I ended up working on their little daughter, a few minutes of infant massage and coaching them. And then I've worked with people up to 106. The other thing I've done is I have my background with physical education, which overlaps into mind-body dynamics. So I was teaching years ago in a public school, teaching physical education, kindergarten to 5th. I'm still connected to a few former students years and years later. And then I'm back to, so I run the business, I juggle, and I also work with kids who are multiply disabled, teaching adaptive physical education in school. So there's this range of things.
You are busy.
I
You're
am.
a busy man.
Working on my book, and I'm tinkering with a meditation technique. And also what I want to do one day again, I created an event years ago, International Health and Wellness Week, a worldwide event to help inspire, educate, and to motivate people through the world to find the modalities of fitness and wellness that work best for them. So I will run that again. I haven't done that. The last time I ran it was right before COVID. Wanted to do it bigger, but COVID's kind of gotten in the way with some things.
Yeah, all right.
Thanks for giving me the chance to talk about those things.
Tell us about your book that you're working on.
Thank you. So this book, it's different. I think of it as an inspirational, transformative book on health, fitness, and wellness. Part one is how I became me, starting as a little kid in Newark with my family, the life experiences there, and then all the years growing up through college days and up till recent. So it brings up the hotline that we were part of, the fraternity I was part of, Sigma Theta Chi, and all these other things, and how I got into yoga at age 12, how I got into working out, how I got into all the other things I did, and life experiences, successes and hurts, everything else. Part two is an allegory called Mr. P.E. and Me that I'm working on. Partly fictitious, partly biographical, autobiographical, other things thrown in, relating to how a young boy feels really out of sorts, moving to a new town, not connected to anybody except this physical education teacher who takes him under the wing, and all these life lessons. And the book will go into up to the present day. And then the third part is more on fitness, health, nutrition, all kinds of things. So I will have a stress management section. I will have a resistance training workout section. I'll have towards nutrition. So I'm working on recipes, which I keep trying out with people. They're my guinea pigs lately. That will be in there, and many other things. So really, a book towards health, fitness, and wellness, but really 3 sections. And it's really exciting, taking a lot of time, but it's cool.
Writing a book is a lot of work.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
and now people are kind of cheating a little bit with AI, which I think is just stupid because, I mean, I use AI, but not to write. And everything you post on Facebook, you can definitely come out with a book already.
Oh, thank you.
AI, though, to go off on a little bit of a tangent, AI is kind of ruining creativity. And Shari says that all the time, and that makes a lot of sense. I like the creativity part of it, but people are writing music with AI, which I think is horrible.
Oh, yeah.
I'm a songwriter. I mean, I got this whole equipment here. I can't even fathom even myself wanting to do that. So, yeah, you're writing a book the traditional way, like sitting down and typing it in on a computer or a typewriter. My hat's off to you. Like, all the power to you.
Thank you, sir.
And I definitely want to read that. I mean, you're one of my best friends from like way back when. You're becoming a good friend again. Why would I not support another author?
Right.
And Steve you heard it already. Like he's very positive. He's on, I don't know how he gets on Facebook so much, but he just does it. I am really impressed with that.
Thank you.
And I actually learned from the positive vibes that you put out there.
Well, you're a positive person. I always thought you were.
Thank you. And I am positive, but when I read your comments, I feel more positive afterwards.
Okay, well, that's okay. I'm getting somewhere.
Uplifting, it's really cool. And I'm like, oh yeah, I never thought of that. Like, that's a really cool, I guess I should say, proverb in a way. And the people you quote, and it's like, I never knew you talk about like that when we were in Hotline. So you've obviously...
I did. I've just gotten more into it, I think.
Yeah, and Steve is now like reconnecting with a lot of people from Hotline. So anybody who's actually watching this podcast, and Steve's timeline of Facebook, which I'm sure you're going to put it on Facebook, or just in general, we'll just kind of do an episode with everybody on Hotline one day.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
And that would be kind of cool. And I just want to say hi to everybody. I haven't talked to anybody from Hotline except for you in person.
Right.
So that's pretty cool. And you're writing a book. I mean, you got your creativity. And I started the book. I never finished it. I'm on chapter 13, and I just really haven't just finished it. And then the podcast network took all my time. So then just kind of listening to somebody else writes a book, I think is awesome.
Thank you.
So what would you like to talk about? Anything you'd like my audience to know in your podcast world?
Just the fact that I'm all about making a difference in people's lives.
And you definitely do that.
Thank you. So the hotline was something, once again, I've had this experience from working with, my first experience working with people with, let's say with people in general. When I was 16, I volunteered at Union High School, my alma mater, for a special physical recreation program for kids with challenges. I also volunteered in Elizabeth at this Workman's Circle home, senior adults, and I was a camp counselor at the Union, New Jersey Y. So day camp counselor there. And then as years went on, I just had all these other experiences. The hotline worked at, it was Keystone Community Residence, and now it's called Keystone Community Living, which was at that time a large group home for developmentally disabled adults. I'm still connected to the organization after all these years. And I could bring up other things, volunteering at CP Center. I've worked with athletes. I love working with people, competitive athletes, but it's more meaty, it's more satisfying when I'm working with a person, whether a person has concerns about addiction, because I can work with people with that through the hypnosis and other techniques, whether they're dealing with issues with obesity, health issues, stress, anything else. Once again, I've worked with all populations, and it's just exciting. It's very exciting to make a difference in people's lives. And as I was saying to a client, Mark, the other day, a new client who's doing a great job, I never want to put all the credit on me. If I'm working with someone, I think of myself as a good, valuable tool. For me, it's a case that I put the credit on the person I'm working with. So hypothetically, say I was training you, Bruce. It's a case that you're taking the time to have me work with you. You're spending the money. I'm simply a...
Sorry. And again,
excellent.
we have more podcast guests. We have the seagulls. Anyway, go ahead.
Well, and the thing is, that may be a flock of seagulls. And I think the seagulls actually, I had worked with them, so they're just responding. I'm kidding. So, of course.
Massage their wings.
There we go. So that's it. It's always a blessing. It's my duty. It's really my duty, I feel, to make a difference.
That's awesome, Steve. I'm so glad you came on the show. I don't remember, you talked about a lot of what you do in the medical, I should say, because you're not, I say medical field, but medical space. I don't remember hearing you say meditate. You do anything at meditation?
Oh, well, I got into yoga as this
yoga, yes. I heard.
Day camp, 1972, as a camper. I first was introduced to yoga. Camp counselor was teaching it, and meditation. So I've been a student of yoga and meditation since 1972, which is 51 years and going. Wow. I'm 63, I'll be 64 in a few months. Meditation, I teach it. So I teach meditation, different styles. And once again, I'm working on doing what I can to really perfect my own meditation hypnosis technique. That's one of those things. I bring that in. The meditation's been valuable. And once again, I have different ways to work with people. So say a person's dealing with stress. We could do hypnosis. We could talk about a little neuro-linguistic programming. We could go into meditation. We could cover other things. For relaxation, maybe I'm doing a Reiki session on them. There's a lot of...
I'm impressed.
Thank you. A friend of mine, Enrico, who's a great guy and a great trainer, he's referred to me as a Swiss Army life of fitness, which I love that, the kind of label that he's given me.
That's amazing. I met somebody, actually, who Rena herself connected me with Deborah Atella. She is a meditation guru herself, and she has a meditation podcast. I think you two would be a good fit.
So
I think I'm going to put you
with
her as well. So Deborah, and I'm going to tell Deborah, watch this, and I'm mentioning her as she is going to watch this. Obviously, a great podcast guest and a good fit for your show. So that's great. Steve, I want to thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you.
If you have any need for Steve's services, and I'm sure everybody does, meditation, yoga, if you just need an uplift, contact him. And whatever contact information he wants me to distribute, it's going to be on his new guest profile on the Guest Exchange on the World Podcast Network. So that contact information will be there. It's up to him, social media, email. And from that point, thank you for coming to my show, man.
Thank you, man.
So
Appreciate
glad to connect with you again.
Yeah, same here. Thank you, everybody. Have an incredible day.